Was 2024 just a down year for the Georgia Bulldogs? That's the question we are talking about today. Joel Klatt has chimed in about what he thinks about Georgia, and I'll bring you that in just a second. But when you look at the scope of things with Kirby Smart and this Georgia program, I don't think it's lost on many how impressive this run has been. And this season doesn't really match up with what they've been doing the last few seasons. Yet they still bring home a trophy. They still go to the college football playoff. They still have a chance to compete. Yet, was it just a down year for Georgia? I think that you can kind of easily answer yes. And it's a down year compared to the expectations. Let's waste no more time. This is what he said. He was doing his preseason top 10. This is way too early top 10. It's January. I'm going to get to that list as well. I think it's interesting. And I have some things I want to dispute about it. This is what he said. I think Georgia had a down year. If we think Georgia is going anywhere and that this is some sort of trend in the wrong direction, I think we would all be sorely mistaken. And that is the question. Is this going to continue, or will Kirby Smart right the ship and have Georgia as a more serious contender? As much as Georgia had opportunity to contend for a national championship this season, if y'all have been paying attention, if y'all have been tuning into especially my videos, I've broken down a lot of numbers. I've broken down a lot of stats that say that this team from this past season was not only not elite, but not great in a lot of areas. And in fact, when you compare it to his SEC counterparts, it was kind of bad, right? And we could talk about that more in a little bit. But Klatt says this was a down year for Georgia. And what I want to say about that to start with is if 11-3 and SEC champions is considered a down year for a football program, then Georgia fans have nothing to cry about and nothing on the whine about this offseason. That's how I would put it. Yes, that's going to happen. Yes, people are upset because at the end of the day, they want to be holding that gold trophy. They want to see the coach and the quarterback kissing that trophy at the end of the season in January, like Stetson Bennett did twice in a row. That's what people want to see. But I want to repeat this part again. If 11-3 with the conference championship victory is considered a down year, that's really all you need to know about the Georgia football program and where it's at. Expectations are at an all-time high. This is something that Paul Feinbaum talked a lot about heading into the 2023 season, right? When three-peat was almost an expectation. That's kind of the way it seemed. Look, I live in Athens. I know what the expectations are. I know how people are thinking and feeling. I at least have a general pulse for what's going on. I get to read what everyone has to say about our content here. And three-peat felt like an expectation to the program and to the audience. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. I'm open to hearing that, but that's what it was. That's an unrealistic thing. And that ended up not happening. But the expectation is that you'd have an opportunity to compete again. And they took another step backwards. We're not talking about like these gigantic steps, but we're talking about another baby step backwards. It's easy to take a baby step backwards when half of your defense is on the Philadelphia Eagles and from those championship teams, and they're trying to prevent a different three-peat from happening with the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll talk about that more as the Super Bowl gets closer. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post newsletter, I'm linking it down below, talking about Joel Klatt and his take on the Georgia Bulldogs. If you somehow tuned into this video a little bit less than halfway in it, I'm Ryan Curley. Thank you for watching. So let's talk about his top 10, right? I teased with what he said about Georgia, and we can talk more about it being a down year, but let's start projecting ahead to next season. He had Michigan at 10, LSU at 9, Miami at 8, Clemson, Notre Dame at 6. He had Oregon at 5, Georgia at 4, Ohio State 3, Texas 2, Penn State 1. You know I like to come on here with these lists. It's something I used to do on the Dawg Post TikTok a lot, was find lists that people make, especially these off-season lists, screenshot them and tell you why I think they're wrong. I'll just go ahead and say I don't know what he's basing. He didn't really explain it that well, but I don't know, at least in this clipped version of it. I'm sure it was just condensed. But I don't really get the Penn State thing. You got to replenish some of that defensive talent. You'll have to replenish some of that offensive talent. I get that Drew Aller's coming back. I get that they were close to getting to the national championship this season. But I think that even if Penn State was in the semifinal this year, they're further away from a national championship than people realize would be my take. When you think about this was the best chance that they've had, and a lot of those key pieces, really, I mean, I believe you have Kaytron Allen back, you get Drew Aller back, but they don't have any receiving threat returning that is a threat itself, right? With Tyler Warren heading to the NFL, you lose Nicholas Singleton, you're losing Abdul Carter, you're losing a lot of important talent on defense. I have a hard time seeing Penn State be the best. He had Texas at 2. Look, people are going to look at Arch Manning, and it's going to be the most excited they've been about a quarterback in a long time at that Texas program, and just kind of in college football in general. He's a huge name entering this thing. Texas is rolling in terms of the recruiting and everything. I would not be surprised if the Longhorns eventually become kind of this consensus number 1 heading into the 2025 season, because I think that the hype around Arch is going to be pretty big, and I think that Texas is not returning a ton of great production on offense. So to me, it's TBD there, and it's kind of the similar thing with Penn State. But the defense they have got some returning guys on defense that are going to be very important. And, of course, they've got a quarterback that they're very excited about. Will that be really good when you're a first-time starter? We see first-time starters not necessarily bring you to the end. Ohio State, still going to be a really stacked roster, is losing a lot of that important talent. The test for Ohio State this season will be, can it do what Georgia did a few years back when in 2021 it was an ultra-talented team, ended up winning the national championship? They bring back a lot of those guys, but not all of them, and they go on and have an arguably better season when you go 15-0. Can Ohio State have any of that kind of magic? There will be a quarterback change. The running backs will be in the league. There's going to be a lot of the defense that's gone. How well have they built that machine, especially if they lose 1 or 2 coordinators, which is also a possibility in its own right. He's got them at 3. He's got Georgia at 4. Like I said, cited that it wasn't that this was a down year for Georgia and that he doesn't expect them to go away. Georgia's probably, if they're out of the top 5 heading into preseason, that probably means either 1, people don't believe in Georgia's defense, or 2, people don't believe in Georgia's quarterback situation. And at the moment, that quarterback situation looks like Gunnar Stockton. So I expect Georgia to be ranked preseason top 5. I'd be kind of surprised if it's not. At the end of the day, Kirby Smart will hold a lot of weight in the voting for that. Number 5, he is Oregon. This time it should be Dante Moore, right? Not a transfer quarterback. Well, transfer quarterback. This time it should be a younger guy that's being developed in the background, and it'll be interesting to see. Oregon's obviously losing some talent, but man, Dan Lanning is doing a hell of a job out there. And you talk about a 15-0, or not a 15-0 season, but an undefeated regular season, winning the Big Ten. It's unfortunate that a 1 seed got matched up with an 8 seed that had a top 3 roster and the best roster in college football. And there are flaws in that. And we saw the flawed college football playoff system affect the way that the playoff went, and to me, a negative way. Oregon deserves justice in some sort of way, but at the end of the day, they lost that Rose Bowl out there. It'll be interesting to see if they've got it rolling. A lot of new quarterbacks here. Ohio State will probably have Julian Sand. Georgia will probably have Gunnar Stockton. Oregon will probably have Dante Moore. Texas, Arch Manning. Penn State, kind of that lone one here at the top with the same quarterback. Then you get 6 through 10. To me, not as serious as contenders. Those 5 are the serious contenders from this past season, and Notre Dame kind of involved in that. Notre Dame returning a lot of talent. He's got them at number 6. People are very excited about Jeremiah Love. I don't know what the quarterback situation is at Notre Dame yet to comment on that. Clemson 7, Cade Klubnik, weak ACC team. Clemson returning a lot of important talent. Wasn't one of those teams that's going to be just farmed from the draft this season, where they're not just going and plucking up all these guys. There's a lot of Clemson's talent that was important that's on the younger side. So they're going to be, I think, pretty good. A national title contender, I don't know, but ACC contender 100%, and we've seen that year in, year out. He's got Miami 8, obviously Carson Beck down there, but to me, TBD on what that offense is going to look like. They've lost a lot of important pieces. I do think it made sense if he goes down there and throws for 4,000 yards and the offense is about him, but still TBD. Number 9, LSU, Garrett Nussmeier, returning quarterback, opportunity to be the first quarterback taken In the 2026 NFL draft, Carson Beck is going to be up for that. Arch Manning's going to be up for that. Nico Iamaleava is going to be up for that. Those are the names you're hearing preseason. Maybe one of those guys in that 2026 draft. So we'll see if that offense can replace. And more importantly for LSU, the defense needs to play better if they're going to have an opportunity to get to a 12-team college football playoff. And Michigan, we will see. He's got Michigan at 10. I think that's probably some Big Ten bias there, but we'll see. We'll see about that. I think that there's definitely some other programs that could be knocking on the door. I'll name an SEC program. There are two of them, honestly. Yes, South Carolina and Tennessee. Alabama's not on this top 10 list, right? So I don't know. Sometimes people make these lists, and I don't know if that's the most serious that we can make it. Maybe it's just because of what I grew up watching that it's hard for me to say Alabama won't be one of the 10 best teams heading into college football. But this goes to show, hey, look, dynasty might not be in question, but Georgia going away, definitely. That to me is not going to happen. I agree with what classes say. I thought it was interesting to look at this list and to break it down. Some of my way too early thoughts. I'm excited for spring ball. Look, I don't like the offseason. I don't like the offseason because it makes this part a little bit more difficult. There's not as much tangible things for us to talk about. And I find myself counting down to watch football again. There's only one more football game, the Super Bowl. And then for me, it's all hoops and some golf and a little bit of tennis and some waiting for August. But hopefully you'll stick around with us up until that point and through the 25 season. Thank you for watching.